Hi folks, it is time for the weekly overview for the week of October the 28th. We have a new moon in Scorpio on November the 1st. In my last two videos, I've talked about the transits and the aspects made by the personal planets as they go through Scorpio and Sagittarius. And those videos are a helpful backdrop to what we're going to discuss today. But let's just focus on this week, and where I feel like there's more color added in those videos, I will let you know. You can then choose to, if you want to watch those or not, you can. If you know your chart and you know the houses occupied by Scorpio and Sag, it might be fun to take a look at those to just kind of get a sense of what's going on. Bottom line, the big event this week is the new moon in Scorpio on November the 1st, which is Friday. And for those of you who celebrate Diwali, for example, or Sawain, I think it's called, those November the 1st is, of course, an important date for Diwali. The dark of the moon, October 31st, November the 1st, the in India time, sort of the period of time when Diwali celebrated falls there. So happy Diwali to folks. For me, I'm going to kind of consider, once the moon enters Scorpio, I think on Thursday, on either the 31st or the 1st, I can't remember when. I think I'm going to, on the 31st, I'm going to kind of, it's going to be my day to mark that important time. At least in the Northern Hemisphere, there's this idea of this kind of transition, even though the transition from fall to winter happens on the autumn solstice. In certain cultures, this particular lunation is a time marking the change of the seasons, in a sense. Okay, with all of that said, more significantly and more importantly, we are, as the week continues to November the 1st, the moon is going to get darker and darker and darker. And certainly on the 29th, on the 30th and the 31st, and on the 30th and the 31st especially, as I say, 48 hours before new moon, that time period, energetically we might feel spacey, depressed, unmotivated, even frightened. We don't have the energy or the motivation or the mojo necessarily to tap into. We're releasing the last month. We're releasing the Libra month. Also, before the moon moves into Scorpio to create the new moon there in her conjunction with the sun, she's going to go over the sign of Libra. Prior to that, as this week continues. So before she moves into Scorpio, there might even be an energetic sense of completing certain items related to the 28-day month of Libra we had that started on October the 2nd. Okay, so energetically, expect to feel depleted, depressed, frightened, as part of energetically depleted. Anxious is probably a good way to it. Unmotivated, feeling like, is anything going to happen? That kind of stuff. The dark of the moon prior to the new moon, and then the new moon occurs, and those of us who watch our energy know that the wind comes behind our sails after the new moon. But it can be a kind of a bleakish feeling. But remember, you're releasing the past month, and as the moon winds her way through Libra before she makes the new moon, expect to see some sort of items sort of closing out energetically related to that month of Libra. I have already outlined in that Scorpio video, 2 videos before this, the fact that Venus has already made her way through Scorpio, and between September 23rd and October 7th, Mercury is going to be done on November the 2nd, the day after the new moon. So Mercury from October 13th to November the 2nd has made his way through Scorpio. The sun has been in Scorpio since October 22nd, putting a kind of massive focus and sort of a solar glare spotlight onto the Scorpio part of your chart. And the new moon on November 1st starts up a 28-day period of action, activity, opportunity, building on the Venus and Mercury transits and the sun's 1 week in Scorpio. The new moon in Scorpio is trine Saturn, and there are other aspects between transiting planets that are encoded into that, which I will cover in the new moon video that I do. This video is the weekly overview. The next video I'm going to do is about Mars opposing Pluto on November the 3rd. That is an important aspect. The 2 rulers of the Scorpio new moon are opposing each other 2 days after the new moon. So I want to cover that aspect in greater detail, and then I will get to the new moon in Scorpio video. And once the new moon in Scorpio video is done, I'll do the monthly overview for November. So energetically, as far as this week is concerned, next 4 days, the energy gets more and more depleted. But if you're busy like I am, that doesn't mean that you can't be productive. I think that you're just gonna have these moments where you're kind of fighting yourself to stay on top of things and get things done and get moving on things and keep moving on things and all that kind of stuff, especially because it is such a transitional, transformational time in this arc that I've mentioned that takes us to the end of the first week of June of next year. Okay, let's go through everything that is happening this week. On the 28th, tomorrow, Mars trines Neptune. Actually, let's just go around the skies and just do a recap of where the planets are right now. We're still under the influence of the Mercury cycle in Leo. We've got the South Node in Libra currently, and it's the month of Libra till November the 1st, because the new moon in Libra from October the 2nd is still, we're still in that 28-day period that is what I will call the month of Libra. We've got the Sun and Mercury in Scorpio and the new moon on November the 1st. We've got Venus in Sagittarius. We've got Pluto in Capricorn. We've got Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, the North Node and Chiron in Aries, Uranus in Taurus, and Jupiter in Gemini, and Mars in Cancer. Now, Mars in Cancer trines Neptune in Pisces tomorrow on the 28th, on Monday, and Venus in Sagittarius squares Saturn in Pisces tomorrow on the 28th. On the 30th, Mercury in Scorpio opposes Uranus. On the 31st, Mercury in Scorpio trines Neptune in Pisces. And on the 2nd, on the 31st, Mercury trines Neptune. On the 1st, we have the new moon. On the 2nd, Mercury trines Mars. And on the 2nd, Mercury moves into Sagittarius. And on November the 3rd, which is the Sunday, Mars opposes Pluto, Venus opposes Jupiter, Venus trines Chiron, and Mars moves into Leo. On Monday the 4th of November, the Sun trines Saturn. I'm going to go through that one more time. And this will now explain to you why it was so important to me to do these Scorpio-focused and Sagittarius-focused videos so that there was some context for everything that is going on this week. So, the transits are on the 28th, Mars in Cancer trines Neptune in Pisces, and Venus in Sagittarius squares Saturn in Pisces. On the 30th, Mercury in Scorpio opposes Uranus in Taurus. On the 31st, Mercury in Scorpio trines Neptune in Pisces. On the 1st of November, we have the new moon. On the 2nd of November, Mercury in Scorpio trines Mars in Cancer, and Mercury moves into Sagittarius. On November the 3rd, Mars in Cancer opposes Pluto in Capricorn, Venus in Sag opposes Jupiter in Gemini, Venus in Sag trines Chiron in Aries, and Mars moves into Leo. And on the 4th, the Sun in Scorpio trines Saturn in Pisces. In the middle, there are two transitions happening: Mercury moving into Sagittarius and Mars moving into Leo. And given where the planets are at, as they move through those last degrees, they are forming their aspects to Neptune and to each other as they move through. We've talked about the fact that from the Scorpio part of the chart, these trines are going to be made. The Sun is getting ready to trine Saturn. The new moon on the 1st trines Saturn in Pisces. So it's kind of, for the middle of the week, it's Mercury that kind of takes priority. And as we get to the end of the week, Venus slips into place to oppose Jupiter in Gemini and trine Chiron in Aries. So how shall we focus these energies? We're going to focus these energies by first talking about the fact that we know where the slower moving planets are and we know what they're trying to do. we know that Saturn is trying to stabilize the house occupied by the sign of Pisces by either trying to provide structure to artistic and creative plans or to stop a sense of energy leak around a lack of definition, a lack of energy, a lack of boundaries related to a foggy handling of affairs related to the Pisces part of the chart. This could include activities related to theft or loss or deception, or us playing our cards close to our chest or somebody else playing their cards close to their chest. But it could also be a feeling like we haven't been able to get a handle in a structured manner. And one of you posted a comment, and I think it was you, around Saturn stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart is a little way vague, and it's kind of reductive. It works for me as a sentence, but you're absolutely right. Where Saturn is, the primary question always is, how can you act in the most karmically responsible way that benefits you? And the idea of benefiting you means that the intention is for it to benefit everybody. But with Saturn, Saturn is always trying to get us to act to a highest potential. And Saturn is about boundaries, because the idea that it should benefit everybody doesn't mean that you have to be self-sacrificing. The idea is that if something needs to be handled responsibly, then communications and activities are handled with the intention of a constructive outcome. But if someone you're dealing with is not interested in that constructive outcome, at least in our demeanor and our manner of handling things, things can still be handled as responsibly as possible, so that the damage that can be created by irresponsible reactivity is mitigated. And if we're trying to structure things, do things, with Neptune's influence in the Pisces part of the chart, where have we let go of the reins? And Saturn, since March 2023, saying, take those reins back. And meet your obligations and your responsibilities in the Pisces part of the chart with structure, intention. Take it seriously, the Pisces part of the chart. Now, as the personal planets go through the Scorpio part of the chart, they trine and support and create flow with Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, and with Mars going through Cancer, the sign of Cancer right now. And at least some of the aspects being made this week: Mars trining Neptune, Mercury trining Neptune, the new moon in Scorpio trining Saturn, Mercury trining Mars, the Sun trining Saturn. They're very much part of what I've been calling this water sign trine. And because the personal planets are the ones that are moving through Scorpio the fastest, and because Venus is the planet that led the charge, it very well could be that this week we are trying to, that the stabilization of the Pisces part of the chart is somehow dependent on taking actions related to the two things that Venus does whenever she transits through a part of the chart. Number one, she asks the question, are all matters related to the part of the chart in alignment with our goals and what we value? Financial obligations, relationships. Are the affairs related to the Scorpio part of the chart serving us, or are we working extra hard to deal with expenses that are not necessary and not in alignment with where we're trying to go, or putting up with relationship issues or relationship challenges or energy leaks that are not serving us in the Scorpio part of the chart? And Venus, as I mentioned, asked this question between September 23rd and October 17th and brought certain things to awareness. Mercury, since October 13th, has made this a mental and a communication process. And now the Sun has come in since October the 22nd, and we have the new moon on November the 1st, and we are going to take actions. One way to look at it is that we are stabilizing not just the Pisces part of the chart, but also the Scorpio part of the chart. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 aspects that I've talked about. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50% of the activity, I would say, because the two other things, let's just 10 things, two of those things that I'm counting are Mars moving into Leo and Mercury moving into Sag. Out of the 10 aspects being made this week that I brought up, 5 of them are part of this conversation between Mars in Cancer, the Sun, Mercury, the new moon in Scorpio, and Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. Now, energetically, we may feel a certain amount of dwindling energy till November the 1st, and we may, after November the 1st, the wave starts to move to the shore towards the November 15th full moon, or November 16th, 17th full moon, whenever that full moon is occurring. Hold on one sec. Let me get you the exact date for that. And that's a full moon in Scorpio. The other thing related to planets going through Scorpio is that they will oppose Uranus in Taurus. So matters related to the Scorpio part of the chart do need to occur in such a way that they're supporting what Uranus and Taurus has been trying to do since 2016. Now, Venus opposing Uranus, the Sun opposing Uranus, Mercury opposing Uranus has been going on every year since Uranus moved into Taurus. But it's that part of the year that as we focus our annual energy into the Scorpio part of the chart, we're trying to bring it in alignment with what we're trying to stabilize or act responsibly or take responsibly in the Pisces part of the chart, with help from Mars in Cancer. And we're keeping into account that however we're trying to structure and whatever we're doing, whatever goals we're taking on, whatever seeds we're planting, whatever we're doing with that second role of Venus that she plays when she goes through a part of the chart, which is bring opportunities, relationship opportunities, ideas, openings, financial opportunities, day-to-day blessings. We are going to be capitalizing and acting on them during November, related to the Scorpio part of the chart. And we are focused on doing what we need to in the Scorpio part of the chart to help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart and support Saturn there. But we are also going to be taking into account what needs to happen in the Scorpio part of the chart to allow Uranus's transit through Taurus to be honored. Wherever Uranus goes, he is trying to build our individual path through that part of the chart. What is right for us? It may not be conventional. It may not be what people conventionally do to build a resume or think should be occurring there. November the 15th, I wasn't wrong, the full moon in Taurus. And there's a dependency with this Scorpio part of the chart. How does that need to be aligned? What needs to happen there so that it can, whether it is a certain flexibility, whether it is the right solution, what is it that needs to be achieved in the Scorpio part of the chart that can, and the full moon on the 15th in Taurus is conjunct Uranus. This week, the 6th aspect being made from the Scorpio part of the chart is Mercury opposing Uranus. So on October 28th, Mars trines Neptune. On October the 30th, Mercury opposes Uranus. On October 31st, Mercury trines Neptune. On November the 1st, the new moon in Scorpio occurs, trines Saturn. On November the 2nd, Mercury trines Mars. On November the 4th, the Sun trines Saturn. Water sign trines, trying as we head to the new moon in Scorpio. And this is why that Scorpio video that I did with the aspects and transit through that, it breaks down these. If you want more content, if this intrigues you, or more importantly, if it feels energetically right, if you know your chart and you know the Scorpio part of the chart and you're like, oh, there is focus here, I see it, I get it, then take what you can take that resonates and feels relevant to you from this weekly overview video, and then you can look at the Scorpio video that's 2 videos before this to do a deeper dive and kind of center yourself as you head to that new moon in Scorpio. So the idea is, after Venus's transit through Scorpio, Mercury making his way through Scorpio for much of this week, and then moving into Sagittarius, the new moon occurring in Scorpio, we are getting ready in November to take action, to bring activities, people, situations related to the Scorpio part of the chart, the house occupied by Scorpio in our chart, into alignment, number one, with our goals and where we want to go and how those goals can be served. Number two, how this bringing into alignment can help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart and make us act more responsibly in that part of the chart, and how taking actions in the Scorpio part of the chart can help support this Uranus direction path, the breadcrumbs that are right for us, our individual approach, our individual path in the Taurus part of the chart. And staying open and intrigued to the fact that the full moon on the 15th is going to be conjunct Uranus and Taurus. And that the difference this year, as opposed to other years with the oppositions to Uranus and Taurus, is that these oppositions follow Jupiter's and Uranus's conjunction on April 20th of this year, which creates a 13-month period of changes, ideally changes that are helping us move in a direction that is right for us in the Taurus part of the chart. Now, the last video I did, the one before this, was about transits through the sign of Sagittarius. Because while the Scorpio part of the chart has priority in November, there is activity taking place in the Sagittarius part of the chart that we cannot ignore and that you may likely have felt. Venus is currently in Sagittarius, and the very first aspect that the planets will make as they enter Sagittarius, remember Mercury is getting ready to enter Sagittarius at the end of this week, and by the end of this week, and Mars is getting ready to enter Leo by the end of this week. And the trine that they are getting ready to form is with the North Node in Aries, which is very much an opportunity-laden, forward-looking, where are we headed to? Remember, what we're trying to do is bring things in alignment with our goals and where we want to go so that they can be supported and there's not a financial leak or an energy. You know, if Scorpio, for example, is sitting in your 4th house and you are trying to be moving in a certain direction, it's this example that I gave. If Scorpio is in your 4th house and you are in a place where you are creating a startup in your parents' garage, then living in a 3-bedroom house is not in alignment necessary. It might be, but it may not be financially and for other reasons to kind of do that, to have that going. You may have been living in a 3-bedroom house or a 2-bedroom apartment or something like that when you were working a corporate job. And the question is, where are you trying to go, and how do matters related to the Scorpio part of the chart support where you're trying to go? And where you're trying to go, communication regarding that has already started when Venus trined the North Node on October the 21st from Sagittarius. Mercury is coming into Sagittarius on November the 5th next week. He will be trining the North Node. And Mars is getting ready as he moves into Leo, slowly and gradually, as we head to the second half of November, to trine the North Node as well. So the water sign trines are taking preponderance and priority from Scorpio to Pisces and Mars in Cancer. But Mars and Mercury are starting to move into the fire sign so that the fire sign trines between Mars, Mercury, and the North Node can build on Venus's trine with the North Node on October the 21st. And then as the focus moves into the Sagittarius part of the chart, in the last week of November onwards, and the Sun gets ready to trine the North Node, things start to focus more on, okay, where are we headed? So November, priority number one, getting the Scorpio part of the chart into alignment with where we want to go. and how we can support the stabilization of the Pisces part of the chart and the right direction for us in the Taurus part of the chart. We can't completely ignore Venus going through Sagittarius because she right now, from October 17th to November 11th, is asking the same question that she did when she was in Scorpio. Is everything related to this Sagittarius part of the chart in alignment with where you want to go? The difference is in the Sagittarius part of the chart, and this is why I did the Sagittarius transit video yesterday, there's an awareness that you can't quite freely just move towards the opportunity without taking into account that the Pisces part of the chart needs to be stabilized. If there's been a loosey-goosiness, if matters are out of hand, either deception, theft, loss, you being cagey, others being cagey, spiritual and artistic plans not being structured appropriately, and matters related to the Pisces part of the chart not being handled with an awareness of what is real or responsibly, then it is important to attend to those, because as the planets move into Sagittarius, and even with the new moon in Sagittarius on November the 30th, they will square Saturn, not trine Saturn, and square Neptune. You've got the expansive transits through Sagittarius to the North Node in Aries and Chiron in Aries, but there's also Saturn and Neptune going, hold on a second, not so fast. You've got to balance those activities. You can take advantage of where you want to go as long as you are taking strides to attend to what I've been calling stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. And this week, since this is a weekly overview and not the Sagittarius deep dive, which we did yesterday, this week, we start off with Venus in Sagittarius squaring Saturn. So you may be coming into Monday, even this current week that we have just passed, with an intrinsic awareness that, oh, that Pisces part of the chart needs to be, because I can see that there's a potential for certain opportunities that might start to make their way, or I might want to create certain, or I know where I want to go, or what I need to do in the Scorpio and the Sagittarius part of the chart. But if I don't attend to the Pisces and start to take that Pisces part of the chart responsibly, it is going to create hurdles and problems for me. The other thing that Venus is doing in the Sagittarius part of the chart is bringing opportunity. And by the end of this week, as Mercury enters Sagittarius and is getting ready to trine the North Node, we're going to be in a place where we start to process those opportunities and bringing the Sagittarius part of the chart in alignment with where we're trying to go in a more mental way. With Mercury, it's two things. We start to think about what needs to be done, and we start to communicate it externally. Transact on it, plan on it. I need this, I think I want to do that. The focus is still, this week, primarily on the Scorpio part of the chart, but there is activity in the Sagittarius part of the chart. They go hand in hand. So from the Sagittarius part of the chart, Venus squaring Saturn on the 28th. Venus trining Chiron on November the 3rd. And Venus opposing Jupiter on November the 3rd. Whatever opportunities and whatever questions that Venus is asking in Sagittarius with regard to, is everything going on in the Sagittarius part of the chart in alignment with where you're trying to go? And can I give you relationship, financial, creative, just generally a certain amount of opportunities or breaks or things in the Sagittarius that can help continue to move towards where you want to go? There's an important awareness that Jupiter in Gemini, where he's ending a 12-13 year cycle, starting a 12-13 year cycle, whatever's going on in the Sagittarius part of the chart, whatever opportunities are being brought up, however it's going to be aligned, is going to need to serve Jupiter creating this ending and this new beginning in the Gemini part of the chart. Very important, because when Mercury goes into Sagittarius, he will square Saturn 3 times, the way Venus is squaring Saturn on Monday. He will oppose Jupiter 3 times, and he will trine Chiron 3 times. The 3 transits that Venus makes from Sagittarius to Saturn in Pisces, Jupiter in Gemini, Chiron in Aries. Mercury will make 3 times during his direct and retrograde periods in Sagittarius, because Mercury goes retrograde in Sagittarius November 26th to December 15th. So while the Scorpio part of the chart has the bulk of the aspects, has our focus, has our attention, needs to be honored, deserves to be honored, because we're heading into a new moon and a period of activity related to bringing that part of the chart into alignment and taking advantage of any ideas or thoughts that Venus has brought to us during her transit in Scorpio, the Sagittarius part of the chart is saying, I'm also starting to hop. It's not as active necessarily this week as it is going to be as we head further into November, and of course by the time we get to the end of November, when the sun enters and says, all right, let's bring all that energy and focus that the sun can bring into that part of the chart. But Venus is busying herself in Sagittarius, bringing opportunities, bringing a certain amount of luck, opening things up, planting seeds, but also encouraging us to think about how can the Sagittarius part of the chart be brought into alignment with the awareness that the Pisces part of the chart must be stabilized to avail of those opportunities. The opportunities being brought into alignment in the Sagittarius part of the chart are very much aligned with where we're trying to go because of the trines with the North Node in Aries and Chiron in Aries. And activities related to the Sagittarius part of the chart must be in alignment with, and the opportunities being created are very much in conversation with and in alignment with Jupiter trying to end a 12-13-year cycle and start a 12-13-year cycle in Gemini. If you have Jupiter retrograde in your birth chart, these oppositions will be very, very potent because it is manifestation time for you. If you have Jupiter direct in your birth chart, the energies may feel much more introspective. What needs to happen? How does it need to happen? Oh, it's this opportunity. Oh, this is how this could be, this, that, be, etc., etc. So Mars trines Neptune on October 28th, Venus squares Saturn on October 28th. October 30th, Mercury opposes Uranus. October 31st, Mercury trines Neptune. November the 1st, new moon in Scorpio trining Saturn. November the 2nd, Mercury trines Mars and moves into Sagittarius, moving on November 5th to trine the North Node. November the 3rd, Mars opposes Pluto, Venus opposes Jupiter, trines Chiron, and Mars moves into Leo. And on November the 4th, the Sun trines Saturn. Now let's briefly talk about the Mars-Pluto opposition, because I need to do a separate video on this. First and foremost, all these aspects that I've talked about, particularly the ones that are happening on the 28th, 30th, 31st through the new moon in Scorpio, we may have been feeling their influence already. Mars trining Neptune, Venus squaring Saturn, Mercury opposing Uranus, Mercury trining Neptune. It's as if whatever we need to do in the Scorpio part of the chart has been brewing for a while. We're thinking about it. It's a lot to do with Mercury. And whatever opportunities and questions that are being asked in the Sagittarius part of the chart are also brewing for us. And it's not just a this week thing. It's also the week of October, since let's just say about 21st, 22nd, 23rd onwards, that we may have been in the space of thinking, processing, observing. So that when the November 1st new moon in Scorpio happens, we are off to the races for 28 days, bringing the Scorpio part of the chart into alignment and paying attention to what continues to brew in the Sagittarius part of the chart. At some point, I'm going to do a video on Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius and talk about when Mercury enters the shadow period. But we know that by the time we get to Mercury, give me 1 second, please. By the time we get to Mercury squaring Saturn on November the 12th, by that time, he's very much in his shadow degrees. November 7th, Mercury enters its shadow period. You knew it was going to drive me crazy if I didn't get to that date. We've been feeling Mars opposing Pluto brew over the last week. But this week, it's going to be a very, very present aspect. And Mars is going to oppose Pluto because Mars goes retrograde as well 3 times. November the 3rd, January the 3rd, April the 26th. And Mars-Pluto aspects are, whether they are overt or not overt, they have an element of aggression or violence to them, assertiveness to them. We feel them. Sometimes with Mars and Pluto, it really is a kind of a, I'm going to remove this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take this, we're going to make the change. It's an event. Sometimes with Mars, Pluto, especially when it comes to squares, it can be that someone loses composure and does something rash. With the Mars-Pluto opposition, there's something about a period, something that occurred around February the 14th of this year, 2024, when Mars and Pluto conjuncted, that with these oppositions is reaching a kind of culmination. Only one of these 3 oppositions occurs when Mars is in Cancer and Pluto is in Capricorn, the one on November the 3rd. The other 2 occur when Mars is in Leo and Pluto is in Aquarius. And those 2 oppositions, January 3rd and April the 26th, are going to be much more resonant with the February 14th date when Mars and Pluto conjuncted. This first one, I'm practically doing the Mars-Pluto opposition video. This first one really is saying, Mars, what are you doing in Cancer that can support Pluto finalizing his transition and transformation of the Capricorn part of the chart since 2008. You might feel that someone is trying to oppose that transformation. Something is coming up to oppose it, delay it. But sometimes sometimes it's a question of stepping stones. We might be trying to get to a place by the end of the first week of June of next year, related to leaning into the Aries part of the chart where the opportunities are, the Taurus part of the chart that is asking for changes that are in alignment with who we are in the Taurus part of the chart, helping create the ending and the new beginning related to Jupiter in the Gemini part of the chart. That might be the arc we're moving towards, especially moving towards the Aries North Node eclipses that have been in place since March, April of 2023. We've talked about the arc, trying to get somewhere from March, April 2023 to August, September 2023, not being able to, becoming very aware of what needs to be released and what needs to be tackled between October 23 to March 24, with maybe an event occurring around February the 14th that allowed you the space to be able to move in that direction, but we can only really start to move in that direction again since September and especially October 2nd of this year, all the way to the end of the first week of June of next year. I've told you in the last video I did on Sagittarius, don't get too attached to the outcome or the design of where you're trying to get to. The important thing is to lean into the Aries part of the chart so you can get from that experience everything that you can get. And be aware that with the North Node and North Node eclipse, it's like a carrot at the end of the stick. You may not reach the destination. You may determine that that destination is not right for you, but there's something about trying to head in that direction that is going to give you what you need, that is important for your development on part of your journey in this incarnation. It's the desire. It's this is what I want to do. This is what I want to create. I think this is where I want to go. We all have something typically that we are moving towards, leaning towards. And as part of this journey, this first Mars-Pluto opposition may be bringing us very much in awareness of, is something happening that makes me feel like it's blocking a complete transformation of Pluto going through Capricorn? But is it worth considering if it's a stepping stone to me getting to where I need to get to by the end of the first week of June? Or do I need to act in a particular way that is representative of the house occupied by the sign of Cancer in my chart so that I can support this transformation? But with Mars-Pluto oppositions, as with Mars-Pluto conjunctions and Mars-Pluto squares, and even the harmony and peace that the trines provide between Mars and Pluto, there's also the question of competition, adversaries, us being our own worst enemy by feeding into a certain kind of aggression or reactiveness. This week is not a week to be rash and to take rash actions. If you need to set boundaries in a careful, assertive way, really, if you do, you do, and you might need to. But I would not set those boundaries. I would do them in as responsible a manner possible. That is clear, concise, polite, unreactive. Sometimes setting boundaries can also mean just taking a back seat. And if people are trying to do something, let them do that, and not making the situation worse by jumping in and splashing around. I mean, I can't, it would have to be an individual situation where we would need to consider where's Mars, where's Pluto, and the most important question is, what has Pluto been doing since 2008 to transform the Capricorn part of your chart? And Pluto will succeed, and what has happened since then? There are connections to what happened the second, third week of February. There are connections and awareness. When did Mars square Pluto? He entered Taurus at some point and squared Pluto. Gosh. Mars conjuncted Uranus on July the 15th. One of those moments where I'm looking something up. I'm telling you, this is turning into the Mars-Pluto opposition video. I'll get to that tomorrow. And June 11th of 2024. So February 14th, a conjunction. June 11th, a square. And now these three oppositions. It's part of the same narrative. But the first of the oppositions has more to do with Pluto completing. And a lot of understanding this opposition will have to do with understanding what Pluto has been doing in the last few degrees of Capricorn for you in 2023 and 2024. But from a general perspective this week, be alert to developments that go back to that conjunction in February, that square on June the 11th. Be alert to where you feel you need to set boundaries. Be alert to oppositions. Be alert to. This is the aspect that gives me pause on the upcoming election. That makes me wonder just where we're going to find ourselves by that full moon in Taurus in the middle of this month. And is there going to need to be a certain amount of activity related to it that takes us into middle to end April? Maybe, maybe not. For me, there is a slight element of all bets are off a little bit. But again, I could be, whatever. There's so much noise on it. But let's come back to what this channel is about, which is how these things are impacting. It's the last thing I want to talk about for this week, which is keep your focus on what you need to do to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart and bring it into a space of responsible outcomes, solutions, actions, where boundaries need to be set, where you need to start taking certain actions, whatever it is that, and bring and be very, very focused on and aware of and be thinking about and be ready to start acting on this week. You don't have to wait till November 1st if there's action that needs to be taken beforehand. It is time for forward movement all the way till November the 22nd or so. Mercury goes retrograde 26th. The personal planets are moving forward. If you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, by all means, take actions that are in alignment with the decision-making you did in August when Mercury was retrograde then. If you have Mercury direct in your birth chart, time for forward movement and action. November the 1st onwards, we are going to be focused on bringing the Scorpio part of the chart into alignment with where it is that we're trying to go. And we will be aware of and also juggling a few balls related to whatever's going on in the Sagittarius part of the chart to help us move towards the direction we want to. But a lot of the energy this week, productively, is about. But November is also a month of change and transformation. Remember, we know what is stagnant in our lives, and we know where we're trying to get to. And we know that with the October 2nd eclipse of release in Libra with the South Node the week before and after December 2nd becomes important. We know that it's a time of we know that whether something has shown up to create the transformation for us or not, we need to start changing and transforming and aligning. And a lot of that might have to do with Saturn in Pisces going, stabilize this part of the chart. What's going on in the Scorpio part of the chart, bring into alignment. Where you want to go, on a Uranus, help me. Opportunities coming in the Sagittarius part of the chart, avail of them, become aware of them, keep an eye on the Pisces part of the chart to keep it stabilized. That's the bulk of the activities. With the Mars-Pluto opposition, that is a larger narrative. But this is not a week to be rash. The two planets that rule Scorpio are in opposition with each other at the time of the new moon. It is time for action. There's an energy around it. There might be a sense of urgency around it. Just be careful. There's going to be enough sparkiness in the air. There's going to be enough combustibility in the air. There might be enough awareness of who might be opposing or in the way of certain things. And a recognition of knowing some of this is going to have to get handled and be dealt with all the way to the middle to the end of April should help you not feel like you need to add to the combustibility. If you need to set boundaries, do it, but be aware of the tendency with the Mars-Pluto opposition to do something with the intention of making it better, but only finding that you've somehow made it worse. And the lesson there is going to be towards our reactivity, our aggression, our flying off the handle. More on the Mars-Pluto opposition in the next video. I'm going to leave it at this. This is your weekly overview for the week. All eyes on Scorpio, on the Scorpio part of the chart. There are videos done with a deeper dive and a longer, more macro look at the Scorpio part of the chart and the Sagittarius part of the chart. That's in the last two videos. The next video will focus on the Mars-Pluto opposition. After that, we'll talk about the new moon in Scorpio. And then after that, there's going to be the November overview. And then after that, the Mercury retrograde video. we'll see when all of those get released. If you're interested in me taking a look at your chart and giving you a reading, there are a couple of different formats, couple of different timelines, so a couple of different price points. Email me in the description. My email address is in the description box below. You can email me there. I can get you the relevant information. There's so much to talk about and interpret with these oppositions. So if you're in that space and you want to avail of it, the information is there. There's a thanks button underneath this video. You can use that to contribute to the channel. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already. And next subscribe button, bell icon. If you hover over that wiggly bell on top, click on that. You'll be notified when I do new videos. Feel free to like and comment on this video. It gives it greater circulation on YouTube. And if you find my content useful, feel free to spread the word so other people can watch the content, subscribe, etc. as well, and benefit from it. I'm going to leave it at this for now. And we will continue to talk about, we know that there are backs and forths between now and the end of the first week of June. And now the bulk of my content between now and the middle of April, end of April, is going to try to focus on helping me and you through this particular time, to help us get to and understand, as I've been saying, that it isn't just we're going to get from A to Z easily. There's a certain amount of back and forth. There's a certain amount of releasing what we need to release, cleaning up issues related to the past, and building what needs to be built in the future until we can really feel like we've landed in it between the middle and end of April and the end of the first week of June. I would leave it at that. Thank you, folks. Take care.